Hi everyone, this is Tanya with Flying Dog Studio. Thanks so much for joining me in my quest for finding the perfect drawing fountain pen. So today we're going to be looking at the Pilot Prera, and depending on where you are from, you may pronounce this Prera or Prera. Apparently in the US we like to be different and say Prera, but the rest of the world says Prera, so I'm going to go with you guys. So as you can see, it comes in a little cardboard outer shell, and I pulled out the plastic box, and it is a very nice hinged box, and the pen is held in with an elastic band. So I decided to keep this to kind of store some things in. It comes with a cartridge, but it doesn't just use a cartridge. This happens to be a pen that you can use with a converter, so you can pick your own ink, and it comes pre-installed with that converter. So we're going to take a look at it here, take it out of the box, slide it out. It's clear. I love that it is clear, and you can see there's its little tag right there. It is a Pilot. Now this pen was around $40, I think. I'm going to put that link for it. I got it from Jet Pens, and I'm going to put that down in the description for you. It is a fine tip pen, as you can see from the little sticker, and I do love the fact that it is clear because you can tell when you're running out of ink. So that's kind of a nice thing if you need to fill it up before you start a long project, so you don't have to stop in the middle and do that. So we're going to take it apart here and actually take that converter out. Now, I don't know if you watched when I got my Lamy Safari pen, but I will put that link down below so you can watch that and have an idea of the different kinds of pens that are out there and to see how to ink it. But I go into great detail on how to ink it and the kind of ink that I use in that video. So this had little balls in the cartridge where you put the ink, and so I thought that was interesting. I'm not gonna lie, it drives me a little nuts to hear that rattling around when I'm working with it, but we're gonna start with the cartridge, and as you see, it has instructions on the outside of the little package there for this cartridge, and these are the only instructions with the entire pen. This was it. And it's important to note that the instructions on how to install this were right on that piece of plastic I put to the side, because in true Tanya fashion, I'm going to try to install this backwards. So I don't know why I did it like this. For some reason, to me, it looked like it should go that way. And I think that's because in college I had some pens that the small tip went in first and not the large end. So I'm corrected it here. I finally look at the package and I corrected it, and they just pop right in. Now, of course, to break the seal, you're going to have to give it a little bit of a shove, and probably you could put the end cap there on it and twist it down, and I'm sure it'll like pop it into place. But we've got it in, and I'm going to take the little sticker off that says that it is a fine tip. Now my Lamy Safari is an extra fine, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but I wanted to get this all set up because I do want to test it out on a piece of watercolor paper, this ink, because I want to see if it's waterproof, kind of want to see how it works, and just to know if I want to put that converter back in and use the ink that I normally use for inking my pieces. So we'll get a piece of paper first of all and see how it writes. Now I'm going to do an ink check. You can see my fingers. I always get ink on my fingers. I always like to see how much I get when I'm trying to ink something. This was a simple cartridge and I got that much on, but of course once you stick that in, the cartridge in, it's not going to write immediately. If you're using a cartridge, you're going to have to give it a minute to drain down into the tip. And if you give it a good shake, and don't take the tip and tap it on anything because you can damage the end of it, and you don't want to do that to a brand new pen. So kind of shake it with the cap on. Always put the cap on before you shake it. Kind of give it a good shake, or let it set with the tip pointing down in like a cup or something. I have a cup that's especially for my pens, and that will, and you can see I love the font that they used on that pen. That is so cool. But I leave it setting tip side down, and that kind of keeps it flowing into that tip if you're going to use a cartridge like that. So I love the way it wrote. It was, like I said, fine tip. I love the way it wrote, but I want to test it out on a piece of watercolor paper. So we're going to take just a piece of watercolor paper, and I scribbled on it and let it set for a couple of days. And now I'm taking one of my brushes, and I'm coming back and look, it is not waterproof. However, if you're wanting to use a pen, and I've done that in another video where I draw with ink that is not waterproof, and it does allow you to come back and add water and get some good value, so that's kind of nice. But I decided I wanted the ink in there and that I normally use, so I did put the cartridge in and loaded it up with my ink. Now you will notice in the last slide that was up when I showed the pen, the ink doesn't go all the way up in that converter, and you know, that's really not a problem because it has a lot of ink in there, and I tried several times and I couldn't get it as full as what I could my Lamy. But now this is the piece I was talking about. This is going to be a very detailed piece, and if you're interested in following along on this, I'm going to have some instructions on how to trace this piece from my drawing. I'm going to put my drawing up on my blog, and I'll have that in a couple of days. If you're just now seeing this video as it's coming out, it'll be out in a couple of days. It'll be put up on a Saturday. If you have found this sometime in the future, just go take a look. I'll probably try to link it down below. Go back and link it so that you can take a look and do that together. But I'm gonna ink even though I'm not finished drawing it yet, I wanted to ink just a little bit with this pen because I was really excited to use it. So I have my ink in there, and the ink that I'm using is Catfish ink, and I will link that down below as well. But I'm gonna go from the left to the right because I am drawing right-handed in this one. And I found that it was extremely smooth on this paper. This is a hot press 140-pound watercolor paper, and right off the top of my head, I can't remember the type paper it is, but I will put that in the description below as well. But it was extremely smooth, and honestly, I think it was more smooth than my Lamy Safari. So I was kind of hesitant to use this one just straight out of the gate. I thought, I don't know, do I really want to do that on this piece? Because I know how the Lamy performs, but this one is superior to the Lamy, and they were comparable in price. I think perhaps the Lamy was a little less expensive than the Pilot, and that was the site that I got it from. It may be more or less. I did not get my Lamy Safari from Jet Pens. As a matter of fact, my husband bought this for me for Christmas. So, and I apologize here, I did zoom in a little too closely for y'all and was drawing off of the camera, but you can get the idea. It writes very, very smoothly. But I'm not going to put the link where I purchased my Lamy Safari simply because it's a controversial site, and I did not realize that when I purchased my pen. So I'm not going to put that down there. But you can look for Lamy Safari out there, and Lamy is a good pen, but I feel as if this one writes a little more smoothly. And I did use it before I used it here. I had used it with the other ink in a journal that I write in another project that I'm working on. And I really like the way it writes. It is very, the tip is pretty. I mean, it's a very pretty tip, but it's very nice to hold. It's heavier than the Lamy Safari, and I like that it's a little bit heavier. And that cap on the pen, like I said, it has the nicest click. When you put it on the pen, it snaps on. So I don't know why I like the sound of it, but I do like the sound of it. But I did want to mention again the piece that I'm working on. If you are just here to learn about pens and you're not an artist, I invite you to join me on this. And all of you that are artists and you're thinking about purchasing a pen, a fountain pen to draw with, then I encourage you to check out the Pilot pen, because I did enjoy this Pilot pen, and I am going to have this up on my blog. So even if you're not an artist, check it out, because I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be putting the video up that'll go in great detail on how you can trace this. You don't have to be an artist to follow along with this project, and I think you're going to find it enjoyable to draw it out and to ink it in, and then to put some watercolor on it. So, okay, now that was my Pilot. And this is the Lamy Safari. And the one thing I didn't like about the Lamy was it has that little grip so I can keep my pen straight. but you can tell Lamy is extra fine and the Pilot was fine, and the lines look the same. So I'm happy that I'm going to be drawing this with the Pilot. So my pick of the two is the Pilot. If you're going to go with one, spend about $10 more and get the Pilot. So let me know what you think. Have you used these pens? Do you have a favorite fountain pen that you use? If so, let me know down in the comments because I would love to know. Now, like I said, I have used this for my bullet journaling. I do some Bible journaling, and I don't draw in mine. I know that's strange for an artist doing Bible journaling, but mine is more just a study and not art to go with it. But you can see it writes very smoothly. It does not skip, and this is a completely different kind of paper than watercolor paper. So it performs well on regular paper and watercolor paper. Don't forget to keep an eye out for the project where I will be using this Pilot pen that is coming up pretty soon. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.